the soul collector. The day her father died, Elise stopped believing in coincidence. It wasn't the grief that undid her, not in the traditional sense. It wasn't tears or absence or even the sudden silence of a home that once carried the rhythm of a second pair of footsteps. It was what came just before. A week prior, she had started hearing something. No, not hearing, more like sensing. A thought that didn't feel like her own, threading itself through her mind with a calm, intrusive certainty. Don't be afraid. Tragedy will bring you everything. It whispered like breath on skin, never audible enough to call real, never absent enough to call madness. She didn't tell her mother. She didn't tell anyone. She simply waited, uncertain for what, until the news arrived in the form of a sudden heart attack, and her father was gone. At the funeral, under the choking weight of small-town condolences and the cloying scent of lilies, Elise saw him. He stood at the edge of the crowd, alone, too still, too composed for someone attending a stranger's funeral. He was young, older than her by no more than 5 or 6 years. Dark, shoulder-length hair framed a pale face, striking and sharp-edged, but it was his eyes that paralyzed her. Unnatural metallic blue, flat and endless. He wore a fitted black suit, black tie, white shirt, pristine, untouched by the summer heat. When she looked at him, the voice came back, only clearer. You are beautiful. Don't cry. You're ugly when you cry. She didn't flinch. She didn't weep. The hollow inside her filled with a presence far more vivid than grief. Afterward, she asked about him. Some said he was a co-worker of her father's. Others insisted he was a client. A few remembered him as someone's son. Strangest of all were the ones who swore they had never seen him at all. She would have doubted herself, if not for the weight of his gaze still embedded beneath her skin. A week later, he appeared at her school. He came up to her after class like it was the most natural thing in the world and told her he couldn't stand being away from her, that he had arranged a transfer. His name was Ray. He never used a last name. From that day forward, he was a constant shadow, never needy, never dramatic, just always there, watching, knowing. For the first time in her life, Elise became someone to envy. The quiet, awkward girl with hunched shoulders and ink-stained fingers suddenly had the attention of a boy who made others blush and turn away. The girls whispered about them in bathrooms. The boys gave her distance. She didn't care. She had Ray. He gave her books with strange inscriptions in the margins, brought her breakfast when she forgot to eat, walked her home, sat on her bedroom floor while she studied and recited poetry without being asked. His presence was intoxicating, like stepping into a cathedral of silence and danger. Being near him made her feel exposed in a way that was both sacred and corrosive. And she needed it, needed him. In the beginning, their connection was clean, almost chaste. His touch always lingering just long enough to leave her trembling. But the deeper it grew, the more consuming it became. He didn't just know what she wanted, he anticipated it before she did. A tilt of her head, a quiet breath, and he was already answering the ache behind her eyes. Each gesture was curated to make her feel rare, chosen. For 2 weeks, she lived on the edge of herself. She barely ate. She barely slept. She gave herself over to the intensity with a devotion that had no name. When she collapsed in the school hallway, it was Ray who carried her. In the hospital, the doctors spoke to her mother about exhaustion and malnutrition. Elise overheard the word delusion. They wanted her to rest, to pull away, to stop seeing him. But she couldn't, wouldn't. The very idea of losing him scraped against her ribcage like a blade. If he disappears, I disappear, she told her reflection in the mirror. And she meant it. After her release, they were more careful. They met in places where they couldn't be seen. The garden behind the old community theater. The locked stairwell of the library. His hands knew every inch of her trembling. How to calm it, how to provoke it. Then came the Shakespeare Festival. The school encouraged themed costumes. Ray came dressed as Othello, dark and regal, while she wore a pale dress with embroidered flowers, Desdemona, the beloved and doomed. They wandered to the rose garden behind the auditorium, a place that always seemed eerily deserted. Dusk had begun to fall. She remembered how the wind caught the hem of her dress, how the scent of overbloomed roses clung to the air. He asked her then, so softly it sounded like a kiss, "Would you give up everything, even your soul, if it meant we could be together forever?" She didn't hesitate. "Yes," she said, because in that moment nothing else mattered. His hands closed around her throat before the last syllable had even faded. It wasn't violent. It wasn't rushed. It was deliberate, controlled. His eyes never left hers, and in that gaze she saw not anger, not madness, but absolute serenity. She didn't struggle. Her limbs went limp before her vision faded. When she woke, she was on the grass. He was beside her, calmly stroking her hair. She asked him if he had tried to kill her. "I did," he said. "You just didn't die. That means you're mine. Forever." She wanted to protest. She wanted to be angry, but there was only numbness, and beneath it, something deeper, acceptance. After that, he disappeared. No message, no note, no lingering scent on her clothes. Gone like he never existed. And then came the questions. Her teachers said he never enrolled. Her classmates claimed they'd never seen him. Even her mother looked at her with the pity reserved for the mentally ill. "You invented him," they said. There was no Ray, but her body remembered. His touch, his scent, the bruises that lingered for days after that night in the garden. She wasn't insane. She wasn't. She told herself this every day, every night, until her voice no longer carried conviction. She wrote to someone, anyone, desperate for proof that he had been real, that what they shared had existed, that the haunting wasn't hers alone. Her story became a whisper passed between hands too afraid to speak aloud. But Elise never forgot the way he looked at her, the way he made her feel carved out and filled all at once. Maybe he had never been flesh. Maybe he had only been the shape of everything she had ever wanted. But the cost of that desire had rooted itself in her chest, and she knew, somewhere, somehow, she still belonged to him.